Hari Om. Atma Sanyaman Yoga is the name of the Adhyaya. It's not Atma Sanyamana, it is Atma Sanyamana. Atma, self, here the self being referred to as the one who is embodied. Sharira Dharaka. And in a Sharira Dharaka, Deha Dharaka, everything is absolutely of no significance except the mind. So, Atma Sanyamana Yoga is the yoga that is completely, entirely, and fully focusing on mind. Keeping that central theme, listening to the Yogeshwara Krishna, the ardent and competent disciple is asking a question. So the question may appear very, very superficial or may appear very easy question. It is not. It is not a question posed by you and me as a bystander to a person of the caliber of Gurudeva saying that, Gurudeva, if I start studying and get into this Adhyatma business, do you think I will be able to continue after my death, or it will be all over whatever I have done with you? It is not as simple as that a question. Arjuna is definitely aware of reincarnation. He is aware of rebirth. He is aware of Sukshma Deha. He is also aware that all these samskaras along with the Linga Sharira gets transmigrated to the next body. So it is not a question put with a naivety into it, but a tremendous amount of spiritual seriousness into it. Kaschit na. Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj on this word kaschit says it indicates anxiety. What happens when we receive some money? The immediate thing that comes to our mind is that I hope I won't lose it. There is an anxiety about retaining the wealth that we have received. So the disciple Arjuna, who is on his way of assimilating the knowledge in a practical manner, is suddenly fraught with a fear that the path seems to be pretty durlabh, tedious. Shurasya dhara, like a blade of the razor, as told in Kathopanishada. So, will I be able to sustain and maintain? If I'm able to sustain and maintain, in other words, if I'm able to be sthit in that, sthit is prasthita pratisthita, tishtati prakarshena yaha saha. The state that I am going to get in while working on my mind. So the initial difficulty itself was a deep question that was already asked by him, that is it possible to restrain the mind the way, Lord, you are saying? You may be calling me Mahabhao because you've seen my efforts, but still, is it possible to restrain it? And once assured that it is possible to restrain the mind, it is possible to do yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Now the question comes that, all right, I may rise into the higher echelons of consciousness and I may reach up to even a sampradnyat samadhi. Will I stay there? One, and this touch and go phenomena between the lowest possible ordinary mortal consciousness to extraordinary immortal consciousness, or the height of consciousness attained through dhyana, dharana, and samadhi, will it be sustained and successfully retained forever before I lay down my body and only the sanskaras of what we have done shall be there in my Karana Sharira or the Linga Sharira. Will those sanskaras help me in the next birth? Will I be able to recall? Will I be able to extricate those sanskaras again and bring them to life moment I get another body of suitable type? That is the question. The question is not about what if I die, will I go, it will go, everything will go haywire. No, no, no. He knows the Sukshma Sharira will be going forward. From one leaf, like a caterpillar, I shall be slowly entering on the other leaf. That is how the bodies are exchanged as told by the scriptures. But reawakening what has been learned, would the mind of me in the next birth, whichever it may be, will it have a conducive environment to immediately reawaken whatever has already been learned, so that I do not pursue the same amount of activity or the quantum of activity that I did earlier? And why the question? As he is the stainless Arjuna, he wants to know in how much time this spiritual war will be won. If I am building a house, I built the walls and I got somehow away from that construction site. When I come back, will the walls be there or not? Or should I start making again the foundation and then the walls and again? So every time, is it start from the line 0 or start from the last ascent that you had achieved? So kaschin na. Now the important word comes. Bhagavad Gita, the divine scripture, it's a rare phenomena that has happened at the boundary of limitation of intellectual horizon, where intellect ends and intuition starts, where ordinary consciousness ends and extraordinary flight of consciousness in the form of prajna starts. On that horizon borderline, Bhagavad Gita was divinely inspired and given to us. That is why it becomes so difficult to find out even one word, Ubhaya Vibhrashta. Ubhaya Vibhrashta is one word, but it is enough to invigorate the thinking, not between amongst you and me, amongst the realized souls. Shankaracharya, Gurudeva, Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj, Krishnananda Saraswati Maharaj are trying to interpret in best possible manner with their intellect. Gurudev has given a slight twist there, saying that also it means this. Also, that means the Gaunam has been mentioned, Mukhyam has been Adhyavruta, presumed. It's not fault of Gurudeva because he presumes that we are well-studied people. We are continuously studying. Hardly he may be thinking that, these guys only come on Saturday and then chat only for 2 hours in the name of Satsanga. He thinks, he reposes his faith in us and then expects. That is why he writes like this, that it also means. Now, also is very clear to us. What is before also is what precisely we need to see, where he appears to be holding hand of Madhusudan Saraswati, as well as he appears to be holding the finger of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya says, Karma margat, yoga margat cha vibharashta. So he's speaking about Karma marga, yoga marga. Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj is talking about Karma marga, jnana marga. And Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj is also talking about what is called serial consequence, krama samuchaya. not samasamuchaya. Karma alone cannot give moksham. Karma is the preparatory ground. Karma is schooling. Jnana is graduation. This is the stand of Vedas. Now the question is, if we consider karma marga and jnana marga and karma marga or yoga marga, because it is niyamana yoga, very, very particular, perfect task. Knowing that commenting Atma Sanyaman yoga here, the second yoga marga, karma marga. Karma marga and yoga marga is the word used by Shankaracharya. Now the question is, what is vibhrashta? In simpler words, he is asking Maharaj, Krishnadev Maharaj, मैं ना घर का रहूंगा ना घाट का रहूंगा. But what is this ghar and what is that ghat they are talking about? Karma marga and jnana marga. Now question is, if I am doing karma as per the vihita vakya of Veda, anyway Arjuna is following karma marga precisely as what Krishna Bhagavan has spoken. Then why is he feeling that I will become bhrashta? This bhrashtata is coming from where? Is he saying that, oh, in case I start misbehaving? No, no, no. He has already gone ahead in sadhan chatushta. Where is the question of him misbehaving? Kukarma is out of question for Arjuna. Then in sukarma or Veda vihita karma and jnana, what is vibhrashtata? And the light on this is thrown by Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj a bit more, wherein he mentions that Nishkama karma is what I've been doing, because karma marga means Nishkama karma. Now, Nishkama karma is a phalatyaga. There are two ways you can tackle the karma as per Veda. One, completely giving up the desire, hankering for the results or the phalam. Phalatyaga karma yoga. Superior to that is kartrutvata tyaga yukta karma yoga. Now the question is, I have done the karma yoga the way you told, Lord, so that I get qualified for the jnana marga, because it's a logical sequence. Now I am not able to leave the karma marga in a perfect manner and take it as a jump from there and ride on the jnana marga and then go beyond it to the mukti. So karma marga is the spring dive for the sadhaka to get the geared up elastic force so that you jump from that spring dive, get into the jnana marga, so that ultimately you will cross the boundary of salvation or the emancipation or the mukti. Now what happens is, the question that he's asking is, if I am yoga, if I am ubhaya vibhrashta, that means I have not completed the karma marga the way it is expected to be completed. And I have jumped from there, but I have not even been established in jnana marga, apratishto. So what will be my condition? Again, one word, ubhay vibhrashta. Gita Mata puts us into spell of thinking. At the same time, an analogy that is used, the drishtanta that is used by Vyasa Maharaj, Chinnam abhram ivanashyati. Now this is a very, very thought out analogy given through an alankar called Chetana Gunokti. In English it is called personification. For example, The trees nodded welcome to the weary traveler is an example of personification. The tree will never nod the hand, but सचेतन वस्तु का आरोप अचेतन वस्तु पे करके अलंकार की सिद्धता करना चेतना गुणोक्ति है. The चेतना गुणोक्ति is यत यत अचेतनः, on that सचेतन वस्तु आरोप. Now what is the अचेतन वस्तु? The abram. Now abram, the cloud is split. Means what happened? The mother cloud, when it is together with the entire thing, it's called, in geographical language, it's called cumulonimbus cloud, the cloud that can rain. Now part of that, when it goes away, a small cloud in the sky that doesn't have ability to rain unless he joins another cloud which is having an ability to rain. Now what is the status of that cloud which has split from the previous one but has not reached another one? It is called Chinnam Abram Eva. Then it will completely wither away unless it gets another cloud. The reason Gurudeva has given comment about the literary Sanskrit literature, Vyasa is referred with his prowess as poet, because in Sanskrit literature we have a kavya called Sandesha Kavya. Sandesha Kavya means take all the natural elements and make poem on it and convey what you want to convey. The classical of Sandesha Kavyam is Meghadutam by Kalidas. The greatest poet of Sanskrit literature, for whom it is said that Pura Kavinam Ganana Prasange Kanishtikadishta Kalidasaha. When it came to count the best poet in the world, Kanishtika, the smaller finger, number one, came as Kalidas. Yadyapi Tatulya Kaver Abhavat Anamika Karyavati Babhuva. The first name came, the Kanishtika came, Kalidas, and the second, everybody started thinking, because second can be many. First is Kalidas, so second is named as Anamika. Still the name is not given. That is a Sandesha Kavya status. But Kalidas was born much after poet Vyasa Maharaj. That is why Vyasa Maharaj is considered to be the primary poet. By one analogy, Chinnam Abram Iva Nashyati. Each word is pregnant with the meaning. Renting is the word used by Gurudeva, is Angla Vidya Vibhushita. And he was not only just a graduate, he had swallowed the English. Renting of the cloud. We know rent is to collect the monthly rent. That is one part of it. Rent word etymologically comes from a Germanic Latin dhatu, which is called rend, R-E-N-D. Rend is when something is split apart into two pieces by piercing. It is called rend. There is an animal called reindeer. It looks like a deer, but with its horns, it splits, opens anything that comes in front. So it is called reindeer. Renting of cloud, splitting in toto. So when a piece of cloud going away from the mother cloud but not getting the further mother cloud may disappear just by being fractionized, will I? Arjuna is asking, can that happen to a person or yogi who became Ubhay Vibhrashta? Vimudho Brahmanaha Pathi. The Brahma is yet to be achieved, but while achieving it, my marathon goalpost is yet to be reached, and suddenly I got cramp in the leg, do I start from where I stopped tomorrow, or do I go back to the first line? That is the question. Pravrutti and Nivrutti, taking these two as the Ubhay Vibhrashta, may not apply for Arjuna because he's already in the Nivrutti path. This is question between this is a question that arises for those who are in Nivrutti path, and the question asked here as Ubhay Vibhrashta is called Vyuthana in yoga. Vyuthana is when you are doing Sanyama, Dhyana Dharana Samadhi on the Ipsita, on the Gantavya on the Dhyayam. Any delinquency, any vikshepa, any projectility, any moving away from the goal is called Vyuthana. Now, it's not an easy thing to maintain that status. First, you clean your chitta by doing all the sukarmas. So first you change the karma that you are doing. Completely give up dushkarmas. In the sukarma also, do not have any desire for phalam. After giving up the phalam, that means vairagyam, as we move towards the para vairagya, as we go towards the Vashikara Vairagya, naturally the ability of the mind or the chitta or the antakarna to focus on the ultimate essence or the goal becomes easy. But in spite of the best efforts, the person who was born Nitya Siddha called Swami Vivekananda Yatiraj, he came and asked Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Thakurda, when I am doing dhyana, there is a mill near my place, and the mill gives the sound of closure of the duties. That sound of the blowing horn, that disturbs my meditation. This is called Vithana. About the Chitta Shuddhi and Karma Marga, Swami Vivekananda had done it in the past. That is why while studying Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we come across two more terminologies. Videha Deva and Pralayam Bhutaha. Prakruti Laya Deva. Videha Deva. What is this? This is nothing else but you may move higher up in your consciousness level, go upwards and reach a state where you have reached the purity of Devas. But mind well, Deva is nothing else but an enlightened individual which is yet to cross the boundary. It may sound very bad to the ears, but gods are satellite stations. Yogi reaches beyond that. That is why the shloka that we say at the beginning, Dhyana vastita yad gatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino tasya anta na sura na suragana. Gods cannot also understand it because it is beyond gods. Now the question is, one who has reached at a God stage, whenever his godhood is finished, when it will be finished? Prakruti Laya. When complete Srajan Shakti is dissolved back by Pralaya, all the gods are also gone. So next time again the Srushti comes, God will become man or God will start again as a God? He will start again as a God. This is a great assurance, great doubt. Gurudeva has given one sweeping statement. It is a stark admonishment for us. The process of eliminating doubt is process of vichar. What Gurudeva is saying? Process of eliminating doubt. When will you eliminate the doubt? When you have the doubt. We don't have the doubt. Our problem is, Jai Jai Shri Ram Maharaj ki Jai, Krishna Dev Bhagavan ki Jai, all Jai Jai. It is as if in case of a Ganapati Atharvashirsha, Tvam Gunatrayatitaha, Tvam Dehatrayatitaha. The Ganapati comes right from the Atharvashirsha book outside and tells me, Doctor Saab, mera to ho gaya. I am Gunatrayatita. What about you? That is why, unless doubts are there, the doubting Thomas is the most welcoming thing in spiritual field. There has to be doubt everywhere. Why Sukarma? Why not Dushkarma? Why moral standards? Why ethical standards? Why am I born? Why am I born only as man? Why do I only stay for a certain number of years? Why there are vikaras? What is the reason of my suffering? Why am I not getting permanent happiness? Where is the bliss situated? And then when you process those, elimination of doubt, vichara has started, which is practiced. Gurudeva then gives very subtle hint towards practiced consciously and unconsciously during all satsang. Consciously and unconsciously. हम तो consciously भी assimilate नहीं करते, unconsciously कैसे होता है? But when Gurudeva says there has to be a grain of truth, unconsciously meaning simply by doing a thing, even mechanically, affects us. Whether it is at a skin level or a bone deep level, that differs. That is why Hindu Dharma says, keep going to the temples. Well, hota kya udhar, everybody goes and keeps talking about what is the rate of aloo and what is the rate of bangan. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Every single thing done with a great faith is bound to give the results. Now, the result may be hardly 1 millimeter or a couple of kilometers. That depends upon the depth of the faith that we have. So, consciously and unconsciously, raising spiritual doubts and eliminating them by self-effort through the extensive reading is called vichar. And Shankaracharya Maharaj gives enormous emphasis on vichar. So after asking this question, now there is a further question coming in the mind. About whom? About which? Arjuna has no doubt. Arjuna has a doubt, but he has no doubt that who can quench the thirst, who can dispel the doubt. It is none else than Sri Krishna. Etat me samshayam Krishna chettum arhasi. Arhasi. See, it is not vinanti, it is not request. Arhasi. There is a word in Sanskrit called arhat. Acharya is called arhat. Arhat means ought to. Ought to what? Ought to advise. Ought to work for the welfare of the people. The one who has, or the one who ought to work for the welfare of everyone, Loka Sangraha, is called Acharya or Arhat. So, such a humble disciple of Yogeshwara Sri Krishna is telling Bhagavan, Bhagavan, you ought to, Arhasi, you ought to tell me, and that too, not leaving any doubt in my mind. Asheshataha. You telling, I listening, that's it, and the subject should be over. Classical example of what happened when our own Gurudeva met Tapovan Maharaj. I shall tell you, provided you follow these things. And the disciple said, I shall follow all these things. You ought to tell me my doubts to be dispelled. Such a great guru and such a great disciple. The pair made the enlightened ones in Himalayas. Etat me samshayaha, this doubt of mine, Krishna, chettum. Chettum. It is not prokto, say, vada, tell me. No. Chettum, dispel. Dispel. Asheshataha. See, 3 words he is using because he's so keen that he wants the exact answer and no roundabouts. Chettum, dispel completely, asheshataha, without leaving any doubt, and you ought to tell me that. I am not moving an inch unless you answer me. Twat. In the second line, after in the first line asking as a matter of right, in the second line now he's praising the Guru. Tat. Anya sanshayasya asya. Asya sanshayasya. Anya chetta nahi upapadyate. Nahi. In verily. Krishna, other than you, none whatsoever. Now the question comes to the mind, Arjuna had Krishna, what about the rest of the people? Does it mean that every time I have a doubt, I will be calling Sri Krishna and unless he comes, nothing will happen? This is where the Lakshana, see, Abhida alone will not help. Lakshana has to be now taken into account. What is the Lakshana? Krishna here is not a person. Krishna here is a state attained by anyone. So Tapovan Maharaj, Krishna Maya, Gurudev, Krishna Maya. All Krishna Maya are in this state called Krishna. It is not a person Krishna to whom it is advised. Why? Because at a spiritual higher level of consciousness, the one who is speaking has a colloquial name as Arjuna, but he is the ardent sadhaka by Lakshana. And Krishna who is answering is nothing else but Brahman. And why no one else can dispel this particular doubt? To dispel the doubt, we can take an analogy from Kathopanishad. Nachiketa went to Dharmaraja and asked some questions. Tistro Ratre, 3 nights, so 3 questions, all that we have seen, that we have studied Kathopanishad. But why Dharmaraja? Because he mentions a reason there. He says, look, some say you stay, some say you go after death. I want to know what precisely happens after death. That is the question of Nachiketa. And he says, why I am asking you, Dharmaraja? Because the boundary before which life is there, I know what it is. But boundary after which the death starts, after death, I have no idea. And you stay there. You know this side, you know that side. So you are a purveyor of both the sides. Mrityu Purva, Mrityu Paschat, you know both the things, so you are the right person to answer me. In the similar manner, Arjuna is now telling Bhagavan Sri Krishna, you only can do this because you know how the jivas or the sadhakas struggling on the other side, what are the problems they are facing, and you also know how to go from karma to jnana and jnana to beyond. In other words, you are the sakshi of all the avasthas. The reason is very simple, you are omniscient. You are sarvajna, I am alpadnya. Jiva is alpadnya, Brahma Rupa Ishvara is sarvajna. Only a sarvajna can answer alpadnya. That is why, knowing fully well that he is in the custody of a sarvajna, he is saying, you ought to tell me, and you know, so only you can tell me. Because I am not asking another alpadnya. Two blind people cannot help each other. Andha golangula nyaya, it will happen. Only the wise can teach. Prapya varan nibhodat. Prapya Varan nibodhat. Get yourself taught by nibodhat, by Varan, Prapya Varan, the one who has established it himself in that state is the one who is absolutely authorized to say. Now, the question of authority of Sri Krishna does not arise because it is ever there. The beauty is whether the one who is asking the question, is he the adhikari? Only when one becomes adhikari, one comes to know who can answer the question, and Arjuna has more than qualified as adhikari. That is why he is asking the question and also saying that you only can tell me. Etat me saushayam krishnam chettum arhasi asheshatah tvat anya संशयस्य अस्य संशयस्य अन्यच्छेत्ता nahi upapadyate. Nobody is fit. Upapadyate, fit, qualified, fit, adhikari. You are the one. The question that are coming now in Atma Sanyaman Yoga at the end shlokas are the questions that have come from the superior intellect called Prajna, not Buddhi. Buddhi, when it takes wings of ideation, Kalpana, Buddhi with the wings of Pratibha, when starts soaring higher and higher into the higher realms of consciousness, it starts shining, and the shining Pratibha, that wings of Pratibha, is called Buddhi, Prajna. This Prajna slowly puts the sadhaka into higher and higher levels, and with higher levels of consciousness, the doubts become more subtler, more precise, and more pinpointed, which can clearly be seen in the Adhyaya, because this is the Adhyaya that is focusing on Atma Sanyamana. It started with mind. It started with a question like, but the Bhagwan, I don't know why people get into this rot, what they are doing, etc. And now the questions are becoming refined. We, because of our poor understanding, should not bring the shloka and the question to a lower level. That is why Sampradayika Abhyasa, it is very important. What you and I feel, even though we perhaps know Sanskrit, will not matter. What matters is only those who are there at that level, they can understand the dialogues better. Gurudeva has spoken from that level. Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj has spoken from that level. Because in any case, theory of relativity understood by you and me and understood by Einstein, there is bound to be a difference. When he will understand and he will explain, it is a different story altogether. That is why, while interpreting Bhagavad Gita, while understanding what is precisely made by the word Ubhay Vibrashta, what is that Chinnam Abram Eva, we have to take recourse to the realized soul, because they have understood the Bhagavad Gita in the right spirit and right earnest. Now, what is going to come to us? For us, what is the importance in this? The importance is every single step that we have taken in Adhyatma is not going to be of any waste. A great reassurance for us. Abhi abhi to mandir mein aaye hai. We have just entered the temple. Don't know how many more births will be required. Even we should not think about it. Doesn't matter. As long as my today is better than my yesterday. I may have moved 1 inch instead of 1 kilometer, but as long as I have moved forward, there's something called pushti or grace of God that will keep pulling me towards that. In fact, the very fact that we all have come together and attending this satsanga itself meant that in the last birth, we did definitely some punya karma, so we are here. There are 1.4 billion people in India. How many of them know of Gurudeva? That itself is the sign of punyam. The only thing is, let us not sit on the small laurel. Let us exploit the opportunity, the spiritual opportunity. Let us be selfish in spirituality. One needs to be. Let us see how best utilization we can do of Gurudeva's teaching. And now the brilliant answer to this question is going to come, which will be discussed in the next session. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much. Hari Om. Sukumarji, please. Actually, we have about a minute if anyone has any questions on this point.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. Hari Om. In Sandesha Kavya, Mega Sandesha, of course, we all know. What else is in Sandesha Kavya?
There is a pavan. Pavan means the wind being used as a medium. The Sandesh Kavya always has two parts. In the first part, the hero uses all the poetic prowess to express his feeling and talks to the Pancha Mahabhutas. In the second part of the Sandesha Kavya is the description of the heroine, or for whom it is or intended. Like in case of Meghaduta, Kalidas had discussion, and he is trying to tell Megha the situation of his and to tell it to my lady who is sitting there in Alkapuri. So he has used Megham. There is a Pavanam, and I think Sadashiva or somebody who has the Uttarardha of Meghadutam sometime in century. So Sandesha Kavyam is quite a popular thing in Sanskrit literature. But all this has come from one analogy, which Maharaj used, Chinnam Abhram Ivanashyati. Hari Om.